Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought a single moment could change everything. My name is Elliot. I'm 29, and I've always tried to be the guy who keeps things smooth, quiet, and simple. I'm not loud. I don't crave attention, and I've never liked drama. But that day, when I first felt the sharp edge of humiliation, it cut through every ounce of patience I had. It all started on a Friday evening. I had been dating Clara for just over 2 years. Things were easy at first, filled with laughter, late-night talks, and inside jokes that only we understood. She was radiant, a magnetic kind of person who could light up a room without even trying. Her friends adored her, and I tried my best to fit in, to be the guy she could be proud of. We were at a small cafe downtown, one she loved for its quirky decor and outdoor seating. Clara had invited a few of her close friends to celebrate the end of a long week. I thought it would be fun, a casual gathering. I was wrong. We were laughing at something trivial, a small joke about a colleague at work, when she looked over at me. I smiled, half joking, and made a comment about a recent mistake I had made at the office. I expected a little chuckle, maybe a teasing grin, but instead she laughed. Not quietly, not playfully. She laughed loudly, exaggeratedly, in front of her friends, leaning back in her chair as if I were a punchline. Her friends giggled. Some nudged each other, whispering, and one even glanced in my direction with that faint, questioning smile that made it worse. My face flushed red, not just from embarrassment, but from a sinking feeling I couldn't shake. I had been invisible, a character in her little story for everyone else to enjoy, rather than a person she respected. For a moment I froze. I wanted to say something, to defend myself, but the words lodged in my throat. My palms were sweaty, my mind spinning with disbelief. How could she do this? How could she, someone I trusted, someone I loved, turn me into the source of amusement in a single heartbeat? I excused myself, muttering something that probably didn't make sense, and stepped outside. The evening air was cool, almost cruel in its clarity. I walked without direction, trying to calm the storm in my chest. Each step felt heavier, as if my very dignity weighed me down. I replayed the moment over and over in my mind, analyzing it, dissecting every glance, every laugh, every tiny motion. I didn't call her. I didn't send a message. I didn't even look back. Part of me wanted her to chase me, to explain, to apologize, but another larger part, the part that had been quietly aware of her subtle dismissals over the past few months, knew better. She wouldn't. Not really. She had shown her hand. I wandered to a quiet park nearby, the kind with a small pond and empty benches, and sat on the closest bench. The city noise faded, replaced by the soft hum of night insects and the occasional honk of a passing car. I could feel my heartbeat slowing, my thoughts organizing themselves into something cold and deliberate. I realized then that the moment wasn't just about laughter. It was about recognition, or rather, the lack of it. Clara had a habit of dismissing me subtly. Tiny cuts hidden in smiles and jokes, moments I had brushed off as playful or harmless. But this was public, undeniable, and sharply clear. She didn't see me as someone to be respected or valued. She saw me as optional, disposable, entertaining. I stayed on that bench for a while, letting the cool night air wash over me, letting the reality sink in. And then I made a decision, one that surprised even me. I wasn't going to beg for respect. I wasn't going to demand her smile or plead for her attention. I was done trying to fit into a story where I had no voice, no agency, no significance. By the time I returned home, I had no plan for confrontation, no dramatic exit in mind. I simply packed a small bag, just the essentials, and left. Not with anger, not with yelling, but with the quiet clarity that comes when you finally see someone as they truly are. I didn't tell her. I didn't send a single message. I just vanished. The next morning, the city felt strangely still. Her texts and missed calls were already piling up, but I ignored them. Each notification felt like a reminder of the power she no longer had over me. My heart wasn't heavy. It was free, not liberated with fanfare or fireworks, but with a steady, grounding sense of self. I realized that love, respect, and dignity weren't things to beg for. They were things to protect, quietly, firmly, without compromise. I spent the day walking, thinking, reflecting. The embarrassment, once raw and burning, began to fade. I remembered all the small moments she had dismissed me, all the times I had tried to be seen and failed, and understood that this wasn't just a joke in front of friends. It was a pattern, and patterns, once seen clearly, are impossible to ignore. That evening, I found a small cafe that stayed open late. I ordered a black coffee and sat in the corner, letting the warmth seep into my hands while I thought about what had happened. I wasn't angry, not in the explosive way, but there was a cold, quiet clarity settling over me, the kind that makes you realize some people aren't meant to stay in your story. By late night, I ended up at my apartment, though it felt different now, empty in a way that wasn't lonely. It was expected. I hadn't left out of spite. I left because I finally recognized the truth. Clara's laughter that day wasn't playful. It wasn't affection. It was a signal. I had been invisible to her, just another character for her amusement, and I refused to continue living in that shadow. Over the next few days, I didn't answer her messages. She texted, called, even tried sending small photos and emojis that once meant something to us. Each time, I let the notifications sit there, unread. The pull to respond was there, of course, the habit of care, the hope that maybe she'd explain, maybe she'd apologize, but every instinct told me to hold back. I needed space, clarity, and respect for myself. Then, 2 nights later, I received an unexpected message. Not from Clara, but from her friend Lila. She was worried. The text was simple. "Elliot, are you okay? Clara's upset. You disappeared." I didn't reply immediately. I sat staring at the message, fingers hovering over my phone. Part of me wanted to explain, to justify, to tell her everything, but I realized quickly that I owed no explanations. Lila's concern was genuine, but it wasn't my responsibility to fix Clara's mistakes. As the week passed, I focused on myself. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected, took long walks through the city, and even started journaling again. The act of writing down my thoughts helped me see patterns I had ignored, moments of subtle disrespect and dismissiveness I had once brushed off. The laughter at the cafe wasn't an isolated event. It was a symptom of a bigger truth. Clara had stopped valuing me in ways that mattered. A month later, I ran into her accidentally at a bookstore. She was with another friend, laughing and completely unaware that I was there until she noticed me. Her smile faltered for a moment, a flicker of recognition, but it was gone almost instantly. That same mischievous, carefree laughter she had once shared with me now felt empty, forced, and unfamiliar. It hit me with a strange mixture of sadness and relief. I realized I no longer needed her smile to define my happiness. I started to rebuild my life deliberately. I didn't jump into new relationships or chase validation from anyone. Instead, I invested in myself, my hobbies, my work, my friendships. Every step I took away from her presence reinforced my self-worth. I felt lighter, stronger, and more certain of what I deserved. Months passed. Clara reached out sporadically at first, testing the waters. But each time, I reminded myself why I had left. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally respected myself enough not to stay in a story where I was treated as optional. Her laughter, once sharp and painful, had lost its power over me. Then one day she called me unexpectedly. I answered, curious but cautious. Her voice was quieter than I remembered, tinged with hesitation. "Elliot, I wanted to say, I'm sorry for that day. I shouldn't have laughed. I didn't realize how it made you feel." I paused, hearing the words, weighing the tone, the sincerity. Part of me felt a twinge of old hurt, a flicker of longing for the familiar warmth we once shared. But another part, the part that had grown stronger in absence, reminded me of everything I had learned about respect and self-worth. I thanked her for acknowledging it, but explained that some moments leave marks that can't simply be erased with an apology. I didn't say it coldly. I said it with clarity, with the calm assurance of someone who had finally found balance. The conversation ended amicably, no recrimination, no pleading, no false hopes. I hung up and leaned back in my chair. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. Not because someone else had changed, but because I had. I realized that love, care, and respect are only meaningful when mutual. If they are absent, no amount of effort or loyalty can fill the void. In the weeks that followed, I walked past the cafe where it all began. I didn't feel anger or regret. I only felt a quiet peace, a strange satisfaction knowing I had walked away with my dignity intact. Clara's laughter, once a wound, was now a reminder. Not all stories are meant to be yours, and sometimes the bravest act is to step out of the shadows and vanish. I still remember the exact moment I realized it, the day she laughed in front of her friends, and I vanished. That single act of leaving, quiet and deliberate, shifted everything. Not just our story, but mine. I discovered that walking away isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming yourself. And in that reclamation, I found something far more powerful than a smile. It was freedom, it was clarity, and it was peace.